Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at Cosmic Ghost Rider Deep Dive. We're going to try and draw some conclusions from what you can see, because quite evidently Cosmic Ghost Rider seems to have gotten most of Galactus's juju as a Galactus herald. And seemingly he has stolen the hit power of pretty much every other herald. And finally, it looks like we will have a quite present, a quite visible champion from Heralds of Galactus that will not be considered a complete failure and waste of resources like Airwalker, Nova, like Terrax, for instance. Well, okay, Alliance for Defense. They are doing their job, but that is about it. Now, Cosmic Ghost Rider, so here we can see by the clips that he definitely does pack a lot of punching power. And that is great. That is very, very refreshing to see. I did not see that coming, because it's really hard to actually gauge exactly how hard these champions will hit based on the ability sets. For instance, when you read Terrax's ability set, it looked promising. He had plenty of armor breaks, he had passive damage over time, he had a lot of things going for him, and he was absolutely butchered by numbers. Now, Cosmic Ghost Rider seems to be a polar opposite of that, and he has less stuff going on than Terrax did, on a paper at the very least. And he seems so much better. So let's talk about exactly how good I currently feel he will be. Obviously, that is all subject to change, and nobody can predict future. But at the same time, there are plenty of conclusions that we can draw out of the clips that we saw. So here we're gonna pause a while on this screenshot of him dropping a 70,000 medium attack. And just by the way, if you haven't seen the full deep dive, I do recommend watching this one, because it does a really good job explaining how his judgments will work and how you can alternate your rotations in order to either shorten your cycle but then end up with smaller amount of damage, or extend your cycle and optimize the damage as well as you can. But either way, the ability to drop 70k mediums who are almost all but guaranteed to be crit because of a massive precision buff, and that means that will be a very, very reliable damage source. It's the crit rate should be relatively similar to the one of Stealth Suit Spider-Man once he gets his passive precision up, if you have your precision up as well. So these crits will come thick and heavy, and with all of those armor breaks, with all of those Furies, well, Furies are actually a bit less so, because that involves you throwing a level 3, which might not necessarily always be needed or always will be the case. But still, the main damage output comes from the level 2 precision and armor breaks. And the great thing about that is that you do have a power gain buff that is quite potent, and whose potency can be increased if you activate it later on as a third or whichever judgment. And that means that you will have good accessibility to special attacks. That means that he has significantly easier access to special attacks, which is one of the kind of like common hallmarks of many good champions. For instance, why Ghost Awaken ability is so good, because it speeds up Ghost getting to special attacks significantly. But when we look aside from that, we need to take a look at what he actually does, because having an end result of a very big number is very wonderful, but it doesn't always necessarily translate to a very practical playstyle or a very large amount of versatility. There you can check in with Cal Obsidian, you can check in with Proxima Midnight, you can check in with Hela, and plenty of other champions who can do some crazy stuff, but not much else outside of the damage department. And there are several factors that first of all determine how effective that huge damage will be. And number one is the ease ease of access to it. In case of Cosmic Ghost Rider, if you know what you're doing, it is easily, readily accessible, because you do not have some sort of long cycle. You do basically, for the largest amount of damage, you need to drop a level 3 and then get to level 2, execute a bunch of other actions in order, which shouldn't be too hard to accomplish with some minimum amount of practice. That is the second point, that he has a realistic and simple playstyle, which doesn't involve some extra ordinary ability to control spacings like Tiger does, or control timings and how completely different fighting style, like for instance Ghost. So the fact that he is quite easy to use by the looks of it will definitely work in his favor. Now we also need to look at what else he does, because there are champions still who can access great amounts of damage, but aren't really dominating the top end of their respective classes. Like Sunspot, for instance. Sunspot, amazing damage that's relatively easily accessible. You only need opponents basically not to be debuff immune. And there you go. He also has Incinerate immunity, and he also has perfect blocks, which hold vast majority of the value, why Sunspot is considered to be a meta champion, because that is extremely significant toward the end game. Now let's take a look what Ghost Rider has. So first of all, he has 2 immunities, which are Incinerate and Bleed, and that alone is a very good start, because that will enable him to take frequently seen nodes like Biohazard, like Freezer Burn, like Caltrops, and a whole bunch of others. So that is a definitely big plus for the Cosmic Ghost Rider right there. And then in addition to that, he has a very quickly accessible Vigilance buff, which will prevent him from missing attacks. And seeing that we have more and more champions who do have falter or miss mechanics built in them, that is also quite useful. Now, having access to a bunch of debuffs and a bunch of buffs for a Cosmic Champion really isn't all that special or all that significant, in my opinion. It synergizes well with Despair, but in each of their own cases, it could also be respective weaknesses, because, for instance, if you're going up against Buffet node or Power Snack node, it might not necessarily be the best time triggering many buffs, or on the contrary, going up against Rapid Metabolism, Tenacity nodes, so on and so forth, it might not be the best time relying on debuffs, which is kind of like one of the big Call Obsidian weaknesses as well, because he needs to have perfect conditions in order to perform. He needs opponents to have no way to counter those armor breaks, and he needs to be able to sustain all of his buffs active. So it's not going to be quite the case here with Cosmic Ghost Rider, I think, because his buffs are varied in diversity, varied in their use, and activate at different times. So if you're like quick enough, you realistically should be able, for instance, to out-buff a Buffet node. It will probably cause some significant difficulties and slow you down, but you should be able to fight around it with a very big damage output. Overall, he's definitely one of the better champions released this year. Overall, I would definitely say that he will make his way to top 5 of Cosmic class. Do I think he's gonna be more significant than Corvus was when he came out, than Captain Marvel movies, than Hyperion is? Probably not. He does have fair amount of utility. He has buffs, he has debuffs, he has Incinerate immunity, he has Bleed immunity, has unblockable level 1s, he has access to Incinerate on level 1s, and there should be a very good level 1 loop he can play. And there are some good things going on for him, but there's nothing absolutely extraordinarily useful besides the damage. Overall, I'm very excited. I am very pleasantly surprised by what we saw from Cosmic Ghost Rider thus far. I will be trying to get him, obviously. And he looks fun, he looks fast, he looks, impressive. But at the same time, keep in mind that he might not necessarily be the thing that you need right now. There is, without a doubt, going to be a whole lot of Cosmic Ghost Rider marketing happening and hype happening. And a large part of it is going to be fully justified. There will be very good reasons to have this champion ramped up. But at the same time, this is not Ghost. This will not be Quake. This will not be the answer that you are looking for. But at the same time, it is a champion that will be beneficial to have for vast majority of the people's rosters. So that is more or less what I believe. Let me know what you guys think. I will leave a link to full deep dive in the video description, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya.